cold ocean water swells over an empty horizon. Only gray waves remain where solid land once stood. An entire island is gone. This legendary speck of land was written on old maps. It vanished, taking billions of barrels of oil with it. A single set of coordinates holds a secret that triggered a quiet war. The water hides everything. It has no memory of the soil. Before the silence, there was a promise. A prominent politician stood before his colleagues, clutching a leather-bound folder. He promised them he would find the missing land. He vowed to protect their national heritage from foreign hands. Shortly after, he was dead. The road was dark, and the crash was sudden. What he left behind was a modern riddle wrapped in ancient ink. It was a cold end. Some called it a tragic accident. Others saw a deliberate silencing. The question remains, did a piece of their nation truly vanish, or was it never there to begin with? In September 1997, a military vessel named the Antares sailed into the Gulf of Mexico. Its mission was simple. The crew had to locate a small landmass known as Bermeja. It was supposed to lie north of the Yucatan Peninsula. The sun was hot. For centuries, this island served as a crucial marker. It defined the outer limits of the nation's maritime territory. It was the physical anchor of a sovereign claim. The ship reached the exact coordinates of 22 degrees, 33 minutes north, and 91 degrees, 22 minutes west. The crew looked out over the deck. They saw nothing but open water. There was no red soil. There were no sandy shores. The ocean was completely empty. For days, the vessel scanned a search grid of 322 square nautical miles. They performed a meticulous physical sweep. They used single-beam echo sounders to probe the darkness. The instruments sent sound pulses down into the deep. They revealed a uniform depth of 40 to 44 meters. No shallow reefs existed. No waves broke against hidden rocks. The island was not there. The Navy crew logged the bizarre reality. The map said land, but the sea said empty space. The coordinates held only water. The missing island was not just a geographic curiosity. It was a multi-billion-dollar border post. Without Bermeja, the country's maritime border shrank southward. This occurred during tense treaty negotiations with the United States. The two nations were dividing the western donut hole. This was a massive, oil-rich region of the continental shelf. It was a prize worth fighting for. It was incredibly valuable. The stakes were incredibly high. Because the island could not be found, the treaty shifted. The United States gained control of roughly 60% of this disputed territory. The exclusive economic zone shrank. Vast oil reserves slipped away. Billions of barrels were lost. The public was furious. The lead senator, serving as the head of the Foreign Relations Committee, demanded answers. He warned his colleagues of a grand conspiracy. He claimed foreign interests had physically stolen the island. His voice was loud and persistent. Then, his car spun out on a dark highway. He died in the crash. But his death did not end the matter. Public outrage grew louder. The National Congress took action. Both the Chamber of Deputies and the Senate established an official commission to investigate. They treated the missing island as a matter of national security. The search was escalating. To understand the anger, one has to look at the historical record. The island was not a recent invention. It first appeared in an imperial manuscript published in Madrid. A Spanish royal cartographer hand-drew the map in 1539. He placed a small landmass named Yarza, or Bermeja, in the Gulf. It was a simple drawing, but it carried immense weight. Other legendary map makers soon followed. A famous world map printed in Antwerp also showed the island. It placed Bermeja, approximately 100 kilometers northwest of the Arena Cays. It became a staple of transatlantic navigation. British cartographers later added it to their official naval charts. They described it clearly. It was a low-lying sandy island with a distinct reddish hue. These records were detailed. The government accepted these maps as absolute truth. The island was even listed in official reference registries published by the Ministry of Education. It was documented as having reddish soil and a complete lack of vegetation. For 400 years, no one doubted its existence. The Red Island was real. Or so everyone believed. Generations of sailors trusted these lines with their lives. They steered their massive wooden ships by these coordinates. None of them reported a void. They found only open blue. The ink was trusted. As public outrage grew, the Mexican Congress could no longer ignore the issue. A special commission was formed to investigate the disappearance. The nation demanded answers. In June 2009, a state-of-the-art research vessel named the Justo Sierra, set sail. On board were top scientists and geologists from the National University. They sought clear answers. They brought advanced technology. They surveyed a massive grid of 2,225 square kilometers. Their arsenal included multi-beam bathymetry and high-resolution magnetometers. They also deployed sophisticated sub-bottom profiling sonar. They tracked their movements with real-time satellite GPS. Every meter of the seafloor was mapped. They wanted the absolute truth. They searched for any sign of a geological event. If an island had sunk, it would leave scars. There would be a collapsed underwater crater. There would be piles of landslide debris on the ocean floor. The scientists watched the screens, waiting for a signal. The deep ocean remained silent. The water was perfectly clear, offering no easy answers. They also analyzed decades of historical satellite data. They reviewed multispectral imagery from the Landsat and Spot satellites dating back to 1972. They looked for thermal anomalies or shallow sandbanks. They found absolutely nothing. No spectral signature ever appeared. The space images confirmed the empty sea. Only water remained. The breakthrough came from the ocean floor itself. High-tech sub-bottom profiling proved the seafloor sediment stratum was completely flat and undisturbed. This mathematically ruled out any physical island collapse, explosion, or dredging within the last 5,000 years. This single scientific finding changed everything. It was a total revelation. The seafloor had not changed. No cataclysm had occurred here. No secret explosives had blasted the land away. The sediment layer was completely pristine. It was a smooth, silent canvas of mud and sand. It was undisturbed. The chief scientist presented these findings to the Chamber of Deputies. The final report was 150 pages of cold data. It proved with absolute scientific certainty that Bermeja did not exist. It had never existed in modern human history. The Red Island was a ghost. The politicians sat in stunned silence as the presentation ended. Their grand claim had dissolved into thin air. The report highlighted how ancient mapmakers worked. They frequently copied maps from one another without verification. A specific 1590 Portuguese map had placed Bermeja, further east, but physical searches there by the Navy also yielded only open sea. The cartographic error had survived for generations on blind trust alone. It was a phantom legacy. The lines on paper had no anchor in the physical world. How did a non-existent island remain on official maps for 4 centuries? The scientific consensus points to a simple mistake. Early European mapmakers often copied each other's work without physical verification. A single cartographer in the 16th century likely made an error. He might have mistaken a low-lying cloud bank, a mirage, or a floating raft of volcanic pumice for solid land. Once printed, the error became truth. Subsequent cartographers blindly copied the phantom island. Yet, many refused to accept this quiet explanation. Nationalist groups still point to the timing of the disappearance. They believe outside actors used advanced underwater explosives or dredging technology. They argue the island was erased to steal the oil fields of the Hoyos de Dona. It was a perfect theft. Science says this is impossible. Such an explosion would leave a massive underwater crater and an enormous debris field. Sonar scans showed nothing but flat sand. No wreckage was found. The data does not lie. Still, the conspiracy remains deeply rooted in the public imagination. There was also a third possibility proposed by local historians. They suggested Bermeja was once a very low-lying sand key. Over the decades, severe hurricanes and rising sea levels might have eroded it completely. But the 2009 scientific data quickly disproved this. High-resolution sonar confirmed there were no submerged ruins or shallow seamounts within 50 meters of the surface. If it was a sand island, some trace of its base would remain. There was nothing. The sea left no clues. The government accepted the scientific report. They officially closed the investigation. The treaty stood, and the oil-rich waters remained divided. The loss of Bermeja cost the nation billions of dollars in potential revenue. It was a massive financial blow. Some found the timing too perfect. A map error that lasted 4 centuries was solved, just as a maritime border was being redrawn. For many, the physical absence of the island did not settle the debate. They pointed to the vast oil reserves that shifted into foreign hands. Suspicion remained. We are left with a quiet ocean and a legal boundary drawn in the deep water. The Red Island exists only in ancient ink. It is a reminder of how easily paper lines can shape our physical world. The water is quiet. It has always been quiet. The waves roll on. The maps were corrected, but the doubt remains. Was Bermeja a genuine cartographic error? Or did a physical island once sit in those empty waters? The ocean keeps its secrets. It refuses to speak. It hides the past. Did the island never exist? Or was its disappearance a masterpiece of political timing? Tell me below. Next on Unsolved Echoes, the cold, silent peaks. 9 experienced hikers met an impossible end. None of them survived.